We're going to talk to Sharron Davies now, MBE, Olympic medalist, of course, swimmer, campaigner for common sense. And we've had a little victory for common sense, and I think we've got a little jingle for it.
Yay!
It's Keir Starmer after his countdown. Oh, goodness me. Anyway, listen, here's the thing. Female athletes are going to undergo a cheek swab to confirm their gender before they can compete at international level. World Athletics, the governing body of track and field, has finally approved the introduction of this method to determine if an athlete is eligible to participate in women's events. It sounds straightforward, but, I mean, it's been a long time coming. Sharon, very good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm going to do my own. Yay! We're getting there slowly, one sport at a time.
Yours is a lot better than Keir Starmer's already. But yeah, I mean, it's been such a pain, this story, hasn't it? It's been ridiculous. You know, women have suffered, women have lost events, women have been knocked out of events, particularly in the boxing, in the Olympics, you know, that we can remember. Is this finally going to put an end to all that?
Yeah, the boxing last summer really was the negligence. I mean, it was an unbelievable situation that the IOC allowed to happen. Bearing in mind they've been given results from sex screening 18 months prior to that Olympic Games. So they knew full well what they were doing. Yeah. And they still allowed it to happen, you know, and genuinely a girl, you know, a young woman could have lost her life. So it was astonishing, and I think it woke a lot of people up. We've been fighting this battle now for over 10 years. Yeah. And, you know, you say that they're bringing sex screening in, but actually sex screening was there in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It was only removed in 99, and that was after the IOC had actually polled all their female athletes, and 84% said, yes, please carry on with sex screening because it protects the female category. And, of course, the IOC being the IOC still got rid of it. Right. The good news, of course, is that Trump is saying he's going to protect the female category in LA. So hopefully that will put pressure on the IOC to adopt Seb's policy. But at the moment, this is only track and field. And we've got to remember as well, you know, this is at elite level. It's not at every level. Yes. So we can't just protect elite females and say they're worthy of fair and safe sport, but everybody else is not. It needs to be all females of every age deserve their fair and safe sport, their own space, away from male advantage. And that's it, really. It's not a difficult question.
It's really not. And surely it should filter down, shouldn't it? I mean, is there no process by which that can happen? I mean, if World Athletics says something is the case, surely it should filter down to all the amateur levels as well, shouldn't it?
Well, I think it would filter down automatically rather than actually saying, right, we're going to sex screen everybody, because that probably would be extremely difficult and probably quite expensive. You know, this will be paid for by World Athletics, and it's actually quite a cheap, you know, quick process. The anti-people would turn around and say this is extremely, you know, difficult for people. But it's not true. It's a 10-second cheek swab. I had one done in 1976 at the Olympic Games when I was 13, way back when. It's once in a lifetime because human beings cannot change their sex. And if you're actually an elite athlete, you have to submit to WADA doping tests, obviously, which are much more intrusive. So, you know, it's not intrusive. That's just a way to try and blackmail people again to not do this system. And you know, if you're not going to pass, you're not going to pass. And it will get rid of a lot of DSD athletes as well. You know, there was a DSD athlete that we saw last summer in the boxing. This is someone who's misdiagnosed when they're born as being male. Right. And then because they have a difference of sexual development, which means that they have internal testes, in this country it wouldn't happen because they would have been given a blood test. But in Africa, and particularly in the African nation, it happens a lot. And then they spend their youth with an F on their passport. Then they go through male puberty. Yeah. And most of them know that they've gone through male puberty, you know. So, and then they're gaming the system, which is what's been happening as well. So it will get rid of that problem too. So the only people that we will see competing in LA in women's track and field will be biological females. And
there's a World Athletics Championships, I think, in Tokyo in September. So would it be ready for that as well?
Yeah, I think that's what Seb is trying to do, get it out by September for Tokyo. You know, it's just now trying to find someone that they can procure to do the testing.
The funny thing I find about all of this DEI stuff as well is that since Trump has got in, people are sort of running away from it at 100 miles an hour, almost as if they don't believe it. You know, the idea, we've just learned today that NASA have now pulled back from their plan to put a first woman on the moon and a first woman of colour on the moon and all of these different categories, right? They've just said, no, we're not doing it now. You know, all these big banks are now saying, oh, we don't need to have all this diversity and inclusion policy, just get rid of it. Which actually makes me even angrier, the fact that they're doing away with it so easily. Because, you know, I don't even mind people having a different view from me, but when they sort of fold so easily just because the government of America has changed and they now don't believe in what they've been pushing for the last 4 to 10 years, I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, we've allowed a very, very small, loud minority to have a very loud voice. People have become extremely intimidated to actually do their jobs properly.
Right.
I get very upset with things like parkrun in this country. You can add extra boxes. Why can't we create records for trans women and trans men and non-binary rather than turn around and say that women are no longer entitled to have their records because they're going to be held by males?
Exactly.
Lots of simple solutions that you can come up with, which doesn't throw women's sport, under the bus. And women get a tiny percentage, Mike, of the world's money in sport. We get 4%, right? 4% of all the money that's in sport in the world comes to women. And for the last 10 years, we've been told we're not even allowed to have fair sport anymore.
Right.
It's unbelievably unfair.
And how bad is it in schools in this country, would you say, at the moment?
Well, the problem is people are again frightened to actually do anything about it. So, if you've got somebody in school that's decided that they're going to identify as a little girl, nobody is going to say to them, oh, well, you can't go in the little girl's race, because everyone's very, very frightened of the reaction they're going to get. Yeah. So they end up doing silly things, which we've seen a lot in primary schools across the UK. They will then have just inclusive events. So they don't have a boys and a girls race. They get rid of the problem by going, we're going to have one race. And of course, what happens then? No little girls win anything.
Of course. And that must be so dispiriting for them, because, that's where they form their kind of ambitions to be somebody like you, right? Yeah,
and we've been losing it. We can see stats. We know that young girls are self-excluding. We know in football in particular that the FA have allowed nearly 80 males to identify as females and participate in women's football in this country. Right. And I regularly get, parents of young girls that are saying that their daughters are self-harming, they don't want to go training anymore, they're worried about injury, because of course women have a different biology. We have a different Q angle, which is the angle from our hips to our knees, which means we're more susceptible to knee injuries, and males have better cadence, and of course we're going to get injured. So in contact sports in particular, women have been self-excluding. Yeah, it's shocking, really, but at least one step in the right direction, so thank you for that. Absolutely. Sharron, a good day yesterday. Well done. We'll take the victory. Sharron Davies MBE, the big medalist and campaigner, of course, as well. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.